Thank you for tuning in to another edition of the Business of Fun podcast. It is me, Dave Wakeman. This is the first episode of November. I have instituted some changes in the newsletter, Talking Tickets. Get it at talkingtickets.substack.com. This is going to go out on November 4th. So the first edition will go out on Friday, November 5th. It's going to be cool new things. There's going to be more application, a little bit different layout, a little bit different format. It's going to be fun, so check it out. Make sure you check out my friends at Booking Protect, the global leaders in refund protection. What we've discovered through looking at the data is that customers are taking up refund protection at double the rate, if not more, than they did before the pandemic. This is a clear indicator based on action that people are looking for peace of mind. They're looking for security. They're looking for certainty in their purchases. The cool thing is that it also is a revenue stream for you and your organization. So hook up with the team at Booking Protect at www.bookingprotect.com and find out how you can add refund protection to your offering to your guests. They appreciate it and they're buying it now, which means that they really want it. My guest today is Pauline Fallowell from London Theatre Direct and the Bridge Theatre in London. I guess you got that because there was a lot of London going on there. This is cool. I was really excited to have a chance to talk to Pauline because we, during sort of the lockdown periods, we had a chance to hang out on Clubhouse. Is Clubhouse still a thing? I don't know. We actually bring that up today on the podcast. We talk about a lot of stuff. This is kind of a really, really interesting case study in market orientation and customer focus. What Pauline and her team at the Bridge have done is pretty amazing because when the pandemic began, they were still a relatively new venue. And so they have never really had a chance to establish like long-term customer loyalty, which actually ended up being something that worked really well for them because they just kind of maintained a stance that they had from the very start, which is engaging with their market, understanding how to create value for them, understanding how to have conversations with their customers. And we talk about all of that. We also, I stole from Giles Edwards the quick fire questions. We had some fun with this. We talked about whether or not Pauline prefers the West End to Broadway, demographics or behavioral segmentation, where I get to talk about how demographics is like astrology. We find out her favorite reality TV show, and then we poke fun at me and my love of Tottenham Hotspur. We have fun with two other, actually a few recent guests or previous guests. So we talk about Richard Howle, we talk about Ian Taylor and the importance they had on Pauline's career. And then I also get to make a joke about two of my our other friends that were on our Clubhouse chats, Jonathan Brown and Richard Howle, and tease them in the way that they often tease me about being called the king of tickets by the BBC. We talked about recovery. We talked about behavioral changes. We talked about COVID and how the difference in COVID policies when there's no standard government response has created problems, not just for consumers, but whether or not people are actually buying tickets or not. We talked about how people are waiting later and later, or what's driving buying dynamics. We talked about data. We talked about foot traffic and its impact on buying habits. We talked about mad stuff and good stuff. We talked about getting back to the roots of market development. This is like a really, really great, and we actually, a funny one is we talk about how she came up with her Twitter name, which we will save for the very end. But this is a really good conversation. I think there's a lot for you to learn, no matter if you're in the theater, sports, or the arts, or whatever. So check out this conversation with Pauline Fallowell on the Business of Fun. I want to welcome Pauline Fallowell from London Theatre Direct. Is that right? I even got it right on the first try. I never do that. I always screw up everything. It's like at least once or twice before I do it. Like, so I must be getting better. What's happening? How are you?
Yeah, I'm okay, thank you. Yeah, I'm currently sitting in the foyer of our theatre, which is it's quiet because we're closed.
It looks awesome. I'm very jealous.
it's nice to be in a theatre. It's nice to just be feeling those vibes, and yeah, it's good. So that's nice. I feel like I'm one with my theatre at the moment.
Theater vibes. Vibes. All right. So I've only slightly warned you about how we're going to start today because Giles Edwards, he hosts the Call to Action podcast. He was on. We did the longest episode of the Business of Fun history a couple weeks back, but we started with 7 quick fire questions. And I told you that these are 7 questions I'm going to ask you, and they are completely serious. They are going to be hard. And you better have the right answer, or we'll have to cut this short. So that's the whole preamble to this whole
no
thing.
pressure.
Yeah, no, absolutely no pressure whatsoever. So I'm going to start with a really, really hard one here. A really easy one. Sorry, because they're all hard. They're all serious. They're all absolutely respect what reasonable adults would ask each other. So, Broadway or the West End?
West End. London girl. I'm a London girl.
Okay, so that's it. Just a London girl. I mean, yeah. I'll allow it. I'll totally allow it.
Oh,
I would always say Broadway because I'm a New York guy, so it's like
exactly. Oh,
though I love London.
I'm a London girl, nearly born and bred. I was born just outside in a place called Croydon, and went to university in London and have worked in London since then. So massive place in my heart. That said, I've been to Broadway. I found it wonderful, and it's still kind of like, this kind of awesome place, but I just love London.
I think that I love them both, right? I mean, I would say if the question was on my foot, I would say Broadway because I'm a New York guy. My office was on Times Square for years and years, and I love it. But there's they're both so different and so unique. The great thing is they're both magical. To me, at least. I don't know. Maybe everybody doesn't feel this way. It's like most New Yorkers would complain about Times Square, and I was like, "What?" It's still just it's awe-inspiring to me still. And so I never would say anything bad about Broadway. I would definitely complain about how crowded it is, but I would never. I would never complain about it. All right, so I didn't trip you up on the first one. So the second one then is going to. Oh, don't worry. They only get better from here. Harry Potter or Hamilton? Oh, this is a little tougher. I like that.
Gosh, that's good. Really tough because I'm like, are you talking about the show? Are you talking about the whole concept? I mean,
we'll talk about the show here. I almost went with because magical things. I almost said Harry Potter or Wicked, but that's too simple. Yeah. I was like, let's do Harry Potter or Hamilton because those would be the two biggest names currently. I think so.
I think Hamilton. I am quite a big Potter fan. And I think the show is spectacular. But Hamilton, just the way it's changed, musicals and the way that it's written, and it's just epic. I actually was running to the soundtrack the other day and did a really good running time because you forget how motivated and how empowering it is on so many levels. So Hamilton there.
I would say one of the and I'll tell people this because I've never seen either one of them actually, just because most of the time now that I live in DC, when I'm in New York or I'm in London, to carve out the time to go to the show, I don't always have that 3 or 4 hours that I need to do it. Yeah. But Hamilton, because it was on Disney Plus, my wife and son, they got really into it. And so it's nice because my son's 11 and he's soccer crazy. So he would not necessarily ever consider himself a fan of the theater. So to see him super excited and listening to the soundtrack and engaged in it and involved in, I thought was awesome. And it really speaks to, I think, the power that creativity has to change people and to engage people, and that how, if done well, musicals and musical theater and the arts can evolve to meet the needs of a current time, right? Which is, I think, when you're on the West End or you're on Broadway, a lot of times the producers want a sure thing, and they've missed the magic of something that's magical like Hamilton. Yeah. And they would, you would never expect it would be a hit, yet it's been the biggest hit of the last. The same maybe with even the Book of Mormon or something like that. Wow, because that's not one that people would be like blockbuster.
Right? No, totally. I mean, I remember when I went to see In the Heights for the first time, and I ended up seeing that twice because I just loved it so much. That energy, that that something, it was just something different about it that just made me go, yeah, this is for now. This is for people now. This isn't like, you know, a nice timepiece of a musical that we kind of look at and go, oh, isn't that wonderful? It's very of its time. And yeah, I still listen back to the In Heights soundtrack actually quite a lot, because again, I think there is so much of in that, and you can hear so much of him playing and getting ready almost for Hamilton in it. And yeah, and to your point of, you know, I think Hamilton did a great thing of putting it on Disney Plus. Like, what an amazing partnership over that lockdown period when we were all craving something like that. And for them to be able to have something that does relate to a very wide audience. Like, we do create stuff sometimes where we're like, this is for this audience. It's a small audience. Like, this audience will appreciate it. But I think Hamilton it transcends so much more of that, and being able to therefore put it on a platform like Disney Plus so that it can be reached and be accessible to so many more people. I mean, what was it? It was like $5.99 for a month, like,
yeah, something like that, $5 or $6.
Oh gosh, can you imagine being able to go and see something for $5.99? It's like,
yeah.
What?
And the whole family could see it. That was so great. Like, watch it as many times as you want. It was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, you know, and I hope, and you know, it'd be really fascinating to see what they do get as feedback now coming up through the next couple of years of like those people that did watch it and are now like, I have to come and see the live show because of that. I am really fascinated to see how that does how that does happen over the next few years.
Well, I have this feeling too that or I don't have a feeling, I know, like, because we talked about this before, like, you're like, you fall into that kind of proper marketing training and marketing approach that I have. So, so I know, you see the, like, what I guess would be called theoretical benefits that play out over and over again of doing something like this. And the way that you're talking about Hamilton too, like, there are a couple other shows that I saw when I was first getting started around Broadway was like, that did the same thing for me was Spam-A-Lot. Right, which like Spam-A-Lot was like something that was like unique in the time, but Avenue Q, right, opened the thing up for people, and then I also saw the producers at the time, like with Nathan Lane and Matthew Broderick, and again, amazing. That was like people thought that was going too far at the start, and then of course it was a huge hit. So I also saw Wicked like 5 times, and I still don't get it. So there's that. So. I mean, I don't want to seem like I'm so cultured that I like completely. Like,
what don't you get about Wicked? I mean,
I don't know. I saw it so many times. I still am like, whatever. I don't like it. All right. So we'll move on to number 3 then, because I see these things. I told you these things are these quick fire questions are awesome. No, they're not so quick fire at all. But they're good. So you'll appreciate this next one then, because we're talking about proper marketing. So astrology versus demographic segmentation.
I mean,
and I totally stole this line from a previous podcast guest, Zoe Skaman. She was like sent something around that was like saying about how like demographics is basically like astrology. So,
when you said astrology first, I was like, where are you going with this? I'm definitely demographic segmentation, but I mean, even that, I mean, there's so many things that actually I'd say that you can be really like, oh, well, this is for like 60 plus people, and like, but actually it's more about the type of person you are. So when you're saying demographics, I'd probably more likely to be like, well, is this person, is this person outgoing? Is this person a thrill seeker? Is this person like a
behaviors?
Is this a playgoer? Is this the person that loves Wicked? Like, those people.
Well, I hold up my notes here because you would see that I marked out behavioral to go with astrology. So, I mean, just because I thought I saw that like you were able to, you would appreciate the joke.
Yeah, because actually then I go, well, actually you're probably closer to astrology then when you're talking about behavioral, because everyone goes, well, I'm a Gemini, so
totally Scorpio. They're totally Scorpio.
I'm Gemini. I can never make up my mind. I'm apparently two-faced. I mean, don't know where that puts me.
That's not necessarily my impression of you. So, but I don't know.
Wait till I talk about you later. No.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see what you say after the last of these questions.
So, all right. That is a good question, actually.
I see. I'm not like the worst. I mean, I've actually gotten pretty good at this over the years, I think. All right. So here's one I'm interested in because, so, I mean, I'm in London in the normal times all the time. I'm there like 3 or 4 times a year sometimes. So I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here or Love Island.
Oh gosh, can I go neither? I'm awful.
Go ahead.
I've never watched either of those shows, which probably
That's
makes me
okay.
sound
I
like
make
a
up for
complete
it by watching
snob.
both of them for you. So it's okay.
I'm a Bake Off girl through and through. Give me Bake Off or Drag Race. Bake Off or Drag Race would have been a harder split.
Oh, that's a good one. I never even thought about that. That was like I'm not market focused enough. I was Dave focused on that one because I was like, I'll go and like get like a VRBO or like an Airbnb with like my family, and like the boy will go to bed early, so then we're like sitting there watching like all the primetime TV, and I'm like, I love these reality shows. I love them to death. They're the best.
Maybe that's how we need to segment audiences now. It's like, are you a Love Island? Are you a Bake Off? Are you a...
Well, if you do like the segmentation the way I do it, then that could be a very much a meaningful actionable part of the thing. It would be great.
Definitely.
All right. So let's see then. I'm going to ask you this one, and I'm going to switch the last two because this one, I don't know. You could see my coffee mug come up and down, so I'm already telling you. But coffee or tea?
Coffee. It's
really
tough, but I can't survive without my morning cup of coffee. I just love the coffee flavor, but I'm one of those people that sounds like an old woman when I'm like, I can't have any caffeine after midday because I go a bit nuts. But I love a bit of coffee.
All right, well, that was a little surprising to me. I had no idea. Yeah. All right. So London, being a London girl, then. All right. So this one, I don't know if this one might elicit no response at all. You might roll your eyes at me. This would be totally fine. It's okay. But I'll ask you just because, and I know that these aren't the only 2 options in London, but they're the only 2 options that matter to me. So,
we're learning about you as well.
Yeah, exactly. If you don't know this one already, then you haven't been paying attention. But okay, so Tottenham versus Arsenal, and you could say either and something else.
This is really tough because, that's really tough. I used to live in Highbury and Islington, so it was very, very. I used to be able to hear the Arsenal stadium from the window of my flat, and I used to really respect the fans. They were always lovely, but I have a lot of Tottenham friend supporters who would probably murder me if I didn't say Tottenham.
Oh, I like that. Yeah. See that. Now you can hang out. That's good. Because you could have gone anywhere with that. I mean, there's like no shortage of teams, right? I mean, but that's okay. I'll allow that one then. All right. Okay, then that's good. If it was Arsenal, I was gonna be like, well, thanks for coming. All right. Here's number 7. Here's the much promised one that like it's a complete joke. It's not a complete joke. It's serious. Actually, I adore both of these people. So I mean, they both know I like them. So this is not it. But Richard Howle or Jonathan Brown?
Wow, that's mean. Well, actually, do you know what? I will have to say Richard Howle.
I couldn't pick. I love them both. I totally was joking.
I
just knew that like you were on the you're involved in Star, and so are they. So I was like, who could I ask that would appreciate me like doing a quick fire question? I was like, those two will.
Do you know what? I will justify this because I think
especially because we were on the Clubhouse. So
Jonathan Brown is amazing, and everything that Star and they do, and the amount of stuff he does is incredible. But Richard Howle, I owe my career to Richard Howle. So he gets a massive shout out because I walked into AKA and he was the head of the department there, and he took a risk on this young person that comes straight out of uni, didn't really know what she was doing, and hired her into company, and has always kept me under his wing and looked after me since. And I have so much respect for him. And he's seen me through my 13 odd years in this industry. So massive shout out to him.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, I think the world of both of those guys. So I mean, that's the only reason I included them. I would never have like put anybody in there that I didn't, because that would like take the fun out of the joke. I say it all the time. Like Richard's one of the smartest people I know in tickets, and then Jonathan's like extremely, like, the work that he does, leading star, it's unbelievable. And anytime I can like highlight either one of those guys, I try to, and I'm happy to. And you know, I mean, those are two guys that like I you know, like being in lockdown and like not being able to travel and not having a chance to see those guys has been like one of the you know, one of the harder things, because I mean, every time I'm in London, I see them. You know, so like, I mean, but then we did have Clubhouse.
Yeah, I know. Where's that gone? What was that?
Clubhouse seems to have disappeared, so now we got to do podcasts. All right. So see, that wasn't too bad. I thought that was like actually great. sort of funny. So let me add. Now I do have some serious questions, so we can talk. Now we can talk serious stuff. Actually, we ended up talking serious stuff. Damn it. But what does the environment for theater look like? You're sitting in the theater. We were talking about it a little bit before. You talked about all the surveys that you've been dealing with. I actually have a survey that I'll be releasing probably shortly after this episode comes out in the next few days, because I do a lot of surveys in my newsletter to get people from all over the world tickets. But what does the environment look like in London right now?
Oh, do you know what? This is such an interesting, timely podcast, because literally this morning, my boss, Nicholas Heitner, who's the co-director of London Theatre, was on BBC Radio 4's Today programme talking about this very thing. And so for those want to listen to it on the 28th of October, do check it out. But it's such a mixed bag, and there's been a really interesting right now as well. It's like you could ask me this tomorrow and it'll be a completely different answer to what it is today. I was told by our media agency last week that people Googling tickets was down 20% last week. And, you know, we have seen sales go down because over here in London, there's suddenly been that kind of flare up of cases rising and people feeling a little bit more cautious. You know, we're going into winter, and you know, but even before that, again, if you'd asked me kind of before that week and that happening, I'd have talked about, you know, the fact that there is such a want and a need from people to go and see the really joyous things, to go see the musicals, to see those things they've missed, to see the Hairsprays, the Jersey Boys, the Mamma Mias, you know, those ones that you know what you're going to get, you know you're going to have a great time, and you're going to go with the people you love. We currently have a play on right now, which is written by Susan Laurie Parks, who is, you know, Pulitzer Prize-winning American Black writer. She is phenomenal. She's got this amazing play which we've got called White Noise, and it's so relevant. It's, you know, it's about race. It's about looking at it from different perspectives, and you know, this is what in theory people want to be seeing. But they just don't want to be seeing it right now. They don't. It's not that thing that you're going, oh, that's not escapism. That's going to be a bit hard hitting, and that is what's struggling right now. Those plays that are a little bit too close to the bone, that are a little bit too raw, I think we're seeing more of a struggle with. And you know, it's whoever you are, and I think that is really fascinating in the fact that we've all gone, yeah, people want to come back and they want to be passionate about this, but actually they want something that they're going to love and they're going to escape. Which, you know, I totally get as well. I think the first thing I booked was, I think the first thing I saw post lockdown this year was Six the Musical, because I wanted something that I was going to smile at and with my best mates.
Yeah, I shoot, what was it I wanted to go see? There was something I said, and it was this in New York. I was like, oh, I want to go up. I want to go see. Oh, I want to see David Byrne. And, you know, and I was like, well, because I know that like that'll put me in like a good frame of mind. It will be like about the music, and it'll be about all these things. And I've gone to more games than I would normally go to, just because it's like I can sit outside. There's people around. There's a and stuff, you know. If I need distance, or like if I feel uncertain, it's totally cool. It's right there, but that's it. It's like the baseball I equate with really like some of the brighter and happier moments of my life. It's like baseball games. And so, or NBA basketball. And those are the things I've done over and over again. I've probably been to 6 or 8 baseball games. I've been to several NBA games. It's the same thing, right? It's like looking for things that like put me back in a place where I felt more in control, happier, more just certain, I guess, is maybe even the way.
Yeah.
And that's I think it's an important idea, because I think one of the challenges, and we were going back and forth about this, that people are dealing with is they don't necessarily understand how people's behaviors have changed.
Yeah.
And the struggle that people are dealing with is understanding the behavior change, but then being able to take the step back and to look at what's going on through the eyes of the people they're trying to serve, as opposed to their own eyes, right? Because you went to see Six, I've gone to see baseball, but somebody else might want to go see, I don't know, they might want to go see a more serious thing, right? Because it gives because they've seen so much injustice, or they've seen so much things, or some people, or like I was giving you the statistic, about 70% of Americans just aren't going to go to anything until the pandemic's a little bit more under control. How are you dealing with that? Like, how are you looking at people's behaviors to understand, what you can do and what you can't do right now?
I mean, in terms of, well, I'll answer the COVID one first, because actually I think there's two different bits. There is like how we're sort of messaging the COVID thing and like how we're being safe. And there's also that kind of how we're trying to find audiences for a specific type of play. I mean, the COVID element of it is so fascinating, because like here in London, here in the UK, there's or England specifically, there's no sort of government enforcement to wear masks. And this is a fascinating one, because we do a survey post the show and obviously get feedback in person, and 50% of the audience are like, why aren't you enforcing this harder? And 50% are going, you're doing too much. Why? I don't want to think about COVID when I go to the theatre. Why are you thrusting all this stuff in my face? And you just kind of go, this is so like there is a complete diverse mix of people going, you're doing too much, you're doing too little.
Yeah.
And there isn't a midway, / the people that probably are midway are the people that are not vocal, so of course you don't hear from them. But you can't necessarily ask a front of house person who is, probably in their 20s, probably their first job, probably part-time, who does have quite a lot of responsibilities, to tell an adult to put on a mask, because they're probably going to be told where to go, because you can't enforce it. You can't tell them that this is the law. It's like telling someone, oh, please can you pull your trousers up or something. It's like, you're just going to look at someone in an odd way. So yeah, we are doing everything in terms of, I think from a ticketing point of view specifically, trying to tell people that, look, if you can't come, if that's an uncertainty, if you're worried about it, book a ticket. And actually, if you're feeling unwell, if there is something, like, we aren't going to hold your money. Like, we as a theatre have made that decision that if you feel ill, we will go, yeah, okay, refund, no questions asked, or let's move you to a different date. Like, how can we look after you? Because I think there is a tentative of that, and people are booking later because they're like, oh, I don't know how I'm going to feel until I get there. And putting the fact that we are cleaning, we are doing, all our staff wear masks in the theatre. We're actually more worried about our front of house team, and we're worried about our actors. We're working our back of house team, because we've had some squeaky bum times where, if they were ill and off, which they have been, we can't open this venue. Like, there was one point where we had like no team hardly at all. I was box office for the day. I was doing the box office incoming myself, because we needed people to do it. And I was just like, yeah, I'm there. I would do anything to keep this theatre open right now. So that is that is one area that is interesting in terms of, customer confidence of coming to a theatre. And it also doesn't help that many theatres do different things. So some are saying, do vaccine passports, and some are saying very little. I've been to many theatres where I've actually looked around and gone, gosh, I am one of, there's like 8 of us wearing masks out of 200 people. And you kind of go, ooh, like, what do I feel about this? And as a customer yourself, you're questioning it. And from the other side of it, the kind of, how are we now communicating to people to come and see things? That has been a fascinating journey, because going back to a point I think you were saying earlier about, people commuting, like, we were all told to work from home for a while, and we've, as a theatre, have been open since May in one form or another. We used to do the thing where it would be like, yeah, post it up on the tube, post it up on the trains, like get loads of big, beautiful posters out there. And he's going to go, no one's leaving the house. No one will see that. Like, where should we be spending our money nowadays? And there's a lot more kind of, looking at how we can directly talk to people through databases, through brands, to try and really talk to them so they feel like they feel like they know us, they feel like they can have a conversation with us. I mean, we're so fortunate that we own pretty much all of our data because we've already set ourselves up like that. So we've had a very open dialogue with our customers for actually the last 18 months, because even when we closed, I was like, right, I don't want to, we don't have a show on, but I'm not going to not talk to my customers. One of the first emails we sent, I just collated a load of links that were just links to things that were going on online that people could do. Or we're also well known for our madeleines here in the theatre. It's a very, very quirky thing, but you can have freshly baked madeleines in the interval, and people come out the stalls and the circle, and you come out to this beautiful baking smell. It's something I definitely missed over lockdown. But we sent out a recipe of how you can make it at home on your own during lockdown, and it went down like a storm. It was so good. But like, it is that you just have to keep a relationship up with these people. It's like, that is definitely something that I found has been really valuable, and getting to people that way. Although interestingly now, because footfall has totally risen in London very recently, and I think it's fascinating because suddenly we are looking at doing outdoor options again and booking those tube and train advertisers. Suddenly those media outlets have gone a bit mad, and actually it's now really difficult because you've got the bigger brands that have also gone, okay, we're going to storm back in again, and we spend billions, so like those are taking priority. And suddenly us as Theatreland are going, oh, now we're fighting against the Coca-Colas, the Apples of this world, to go, how do we cut through, because you've suddenly decided to come back to advertising as well. So we're fighting against a lot of other brands that have suddenly gone, right, we need to make back our bucks because we've kind of been a bit quiet for a while.
Well, let me ask you about this too, though, because the same way where like there's Coca-Cola, right, because they are the world's most famous brand, probably well known, because you can go everywhere and you see that red color or that bottle and you know what it is. But doesn't it, I mean, and this is what it sounds like to me, so you tell me if I'm wrong, it presents different opportunities, like, so, because you may not be able to put up posters or ads or billboards or whatever that you might have, but you've talked to people the whole time, which I didn't plant this with you at all, because again, that this is like, I was like, well, you got to talk to people the whole time, right? It's just, and your experience is the same experience as the people I was working with too, that they were talking to people. They've had a much easier time reopening because they were still there. And it wasn't about like going, oh, support me, give to me. It was like going, I know it's tough. Here's what I can give. Here's what we can share together, or here's what we can do. So there's different it seems like instead of the same opportunities, it's just different things. And part of the ability that it seems that you have is that you are listening to the market. You're talking to people. And so you're understanding, I can still reach people. It's just different than it was before. So what are some of those new, like, interesting ways of reaching people? What have they been, or what do they look like? And how do they differ? I mean, I guess you already explained the differing thing, because it's like you would use a lot of tube ads and a lot of like traditional, media. Yeah.
And, I think in some ways I don't think it's a bad thing, because I think I'm one of those people that hates to be, just like, copy paste. That'll do. There's something really refreshing about going, right, actually, let's rethink how we're doing this. I mean, more recently we've been going, it sounds awful, but we've been really going back to our roots. Like, we've been looking at going directly to companies and going, hi, we're this, and we think it will be really interesting for you to come and see this play, and here, have a ticket to come, and then can you tell your newsletter followers? And so we've had so much more exposure from that than we've had from anything else, and so much more reach from that, and actually expanded our audience so much more, because we've suddenly got so many new people that haven't been, because we've actually kind of had to really go and find them, and not just sort of sit back and go, come to us, which that outdoor is brilliant at doing. But it feels again like you're reaching out a hand and shaking it to someone rather than that kind of thing of just waiting for someone to knock on your door. And it's hard, but it's very rewarding when we're currently having audiences that are really responding to this play and better than they would have responded to other things that we've done, like vocally during the show, almost like we've actually had heckling which sounds like an awful thing, but in this play it's totally appropriate, and the way it's been dealt with is beautiful. But the actors have totally been like, these audiences have been some of the best audiences we've played to in the energy they're giving off right now. And I think it's because we haven't taken that for granted. We've really pushed to find those audiences, and that's been a great journey.
Well, that's interesting too. You didn't take it for granted, and I know that this will come from me, not from you. You don't have to. You can just ignore what I'm about to say if it suits you, or you can say whatever. It's a frustration that I have with the way that people just expect that people are supposed to, because shows and sports and concerts and events are back, that people are supposed to have dropped everything that has happened to them for the last 18 months and care about the theater, concerts, sports, events, and everything, because that was what they always did. And it doesn't reflect, at least to me, the reality that, like you said, there is a relationship, right? Yeah. And there is a connection, and there is a, it's not a one-way thing. It's a back and forth. And so many people just like going, oh yeah, well, we're just going to throw open the doors because reopening means recovery. And it's a frustration I share because I see it so much. And, my stuff covers the whole world. And it's like, not just like in London, it's not just in the States. It seems to be everywhere. And, I'm curious, right? Because I think this would be helpful for people. Again, didn't plant this question, so this is good. How did you develop that mindset, and like, how have you been able to, make that an organization-wide thing? Because I know it's not easy, right? So because there's so many challenges, there's so many demands, there are, so many people are getting pulled in so many different directions. Like the survey I did is that like one of the biggest challenges is people are having to do more with less,
Yeah.
But how have you been able to hold on to that idea? It's been like an organizing principle of what you've been able to do for the last like 18 months.
I mean,
in a difficult circumstance. Let me fully like clear. I understand how hard it is, but I also really understand how essential it is to do it the way you've done it.
I think that I've got a fortunate position in the fact that the Bridge itself, the theatre, has only been open. We've literally just celebrated our 4th birthday. So for us as an organisation, and for me within this organisation, I'll have been here nearly 5 years in January. I've always had to adapt. Like every stage of what we've done in this journey, we've been adapting and changing. We opened and we had to find a database, find an audience, find what that is. We have this amazing agile theatre space that means that we can be very traditional in being end on, but we can also do, and we have done a couple of these, like these kind of really sort of, I use immersive in a kind of broader term, but these productions that have 400 people standing and the action going on around, like in amongst them, and seats around people. If you go to the NT at home, you can watch Julius Caesar or Midsummer Night's Dream, which are in those formats and are incredible because of that. And each time we've done these things, we've had to change the way that we've been talking or describing performance, or sort of relaying, like getting new audiences in and being dynamic about it. So I've actually probably been training up to this since I started this company. And we also have a wonderful senior team, a wonderful team around us actually that have that energy. And I think we are fortunate that I work with loads of people that do that. It's like, is that tea? Are you just having a bit more tea?
A bit more coffee. I didn't know it was going to be so loud. That was my coffee.
I'm not going to take it all. It's not just me. You need to have buy-in from everyone you're working with. And I think I'm really fortunate to work with a really curious, creative, group of people that are constantly going, is this the right thing to do? Should we be doing this? And pushing, and not ever wanting to just go, we always do it that way, so let's do it that way. So I think I've always been challenged to do it that way, and I think that's probably from every place that I've been. And I've been fortunate. I've worked for a number of different really interesting, inspiring companies, from ticket agents to advertising agencies to like National Theatre as well. I worked for a while. Like, every place is given a different thing, and you just take that energy and you go, right, like let's keep having fresh minds and open minds.
Yeah. Well, you bring up an interesting thing, and what I'm going to do, and I'm going to present the question, and then I'm going to filibuster for you to give you a chance to come up with the answer. So I'll talk after I ask you the question. But so at the Bridge, right, the National Theatre ad agencies, the thing about the Bridge is this is the 4th birthday, and you've been there for 5 years, and you've been developing an audience like almost the whole time you've been there. Mm-hmm. That's basically what people should be doing right now. And having done National Theatre, ad agencies, everything else, I'm curious, like, what are some of the ideas that you put in place to build a new audience? Because I think that's where everybody is right now. Mm-hmm. And now I'm going to filibuster for a second and talk about like the importance of being able to, I think that like a lot of these touchstones of building a customer base are very similar across industries. And like a lot of times what people get caught up on is like, oh, well, building a audience in the arts is different than building an audience in sports, or building and here's the way I'll explain it to people. I worked on the Obama re-election campaign in 2012, and I worked in some of the messaging and some of the marketing efforts around the campaign. And my philosophy was that what we were going to do was very similar to an ad campaign launch. Like, we were just selling a product, and that product was Barack Obama. That's something that I've held, whether I've been working with like major wine companies coming to the US, major credit card companies, when I worked in museums, everywhere. And it sounds that like it's a similar process to what you're dealing with. And if I've filibustered enough, I want to hear what you have as some of the touchstones that you use, to develop a new audience, because I think that people really are struggling because maybe they took the audience for granted that it would always be there. And I think we both understand that like your audience is only there as long as you continue to provide value for them. And if you don't keep the relationship going by continuing to add value, to continuing to be connected to them, that they will go away. They will forget about you. The brands are really small pieces of people's lives. And like even the ones that have the most impact, like arts and entertainment, can go away just as easily as anything else. Did I filibuster long enough? Did I do a good filibuster? Okay, good.
You did. No, I mean, oh gosh, there's so much in there. I'm going to pick up actually from one of the final points that you made there and say, actually, this isn't actually trying to keep an audience, but trying to get a new audience. But I think this is more about creating a word of mouth around it. So the people that are coming, it's making sure you're actually looking after them. And you're not just doing that thing of like, as soon as they've bought a ticket, you've gone, tick, done my job, like move on. Mm-hmm. When we started here, there was a big sort of drive of being like thinking about the customer through the whole process, from like the moment they touch your brand to the moment, like actually beyond the moment they leave your theatre, like way beyond that moment, because they're buying an experience, and that experience shouldn't just be what they see on stage or what they see when they, go and watch the sporting event. We've really thought about the web journey, the journey that someone might see on our social media channels. We've thought about the comms that you get when you're booking. So, what the ticket looks like. We've got e-tickets that very much aren't kind of very like bog standard. They're kind of nicer. They're a bit like a plane ticket if you ever buy one, and they fold up nicely so you can have like, it's just a nice sort of thing that just makes you feel like, oh, this is quite cute. We do very specific like pre-show emails that try and make people feel like they feel ready for this and they've got all of the information they need when they need it, not just throwing it at them whenever or just assuming they'll come to your website to find it. We've worked with crowd engage, who have do text tickets, and it was something that we've actually been doing for like 2.5 years odd before, like at least a year before the pandemic. And of course that came into its own once we were coming back and needed to do contactless. The amount of people that just would send me a note and be like, I couldn't find my tickets, and then you text me as soon as I went to look to find them on the day, and that was brilliant because I didn't even need to find my ticket. Like, isn't that an amazing service? People were tweeting about this, and I thought, when do people ever tweet to say, oh my gosh, this is a great service? Like, people just don't, do they? And genuinely have tweets about this.
They only tweet to complain.
Yeah. It's so true. And then, making sure that we are, again, so fortunate that we have this beautiful front of house. We're not in the West End where they have limited space, and you are kind of shoved in like into a sheep shearing pen or something, and you just kind of like, people walk in here and they go, this is beautiful, and they can smell the madeleines, and our front of house team are wonderful human beings, and they are so polite and they're so lovely and caring. And then those audiences leave, and they see beautiful Tower Bridge as they leave. They have a lovely walk along the river to London Bridge Station. Of course that wasn't me I have no control over that bit of it, but and then we send them an email afterwards saying, thank you for coming, here's a survey if you want to follow up. But we also then add, this is a play that we currently have on, which is, as I've said before, quite hard hitting, quite about race, but we're not spitting them out and going, good luck with this, you've just seen something quite thought-provoking and in some ways could be quite horrific. We're then sending them something going, do you want to continue this journey? Do you want to read more about this? Here are books that have inspired us. Here's a podcast that's inspired us. Here's some more information on this. So actually you're getting more out of this. It's not just that seat in that show that you're watching. Hopefully you're having an amazing time, so that someone else can tell someone else, and you go, oh, actually this was brilliant, and this service is great, and I love this. And I think having that 360, like literally like looking at the whole thing, and it's hard because some organizations, they are very siloed, and it's like, you do the ticketing, you do the website, you do the marketing, you do, probably the social media. Like, we are quite a small team, and we get quite autonomy to really influence a lot of what goes on, which I'm very fortunate of, and have a lot of respect for the team here that have allowed that to happen. And I think that's really important for someone right now. We all want to be looked after when we're doing anything. So I think that sort of explains how actually we've been building over the last 4 years, because we all know the powerfulest tool of marketing is word of mouth, right? You get that right, and your show could be okay, but someone will come back again because they had a good time. And I think that's important. Also, with
I think. Oh yeah, sorry.
No.
No. I mean, like this whole think about the 360 thing. Think about, the journey doesn't start when they get to the website or buy the ticket, and it doesn't end when they leave. It's all of these things. The touch points there's way more than people usually recognize, and the ones that matter are often the ones that you don't think matter the most, right? So like that text, like the text you sent out the day before or the day of the show, that like so people can find their ticket, but they didn't know, they couldn't find it. Those are powerful, right? This touch point idea is so important. But the thing about it is following up with other details, other things that people can learn. I don't know, you may not even have data for this, but I would assume that it would also drive people, maybe like once they start learning or seeing stuff. It's the same way you go see a movie 2 or 3 times. You might go back and see a play 2 or 3 times. Like we were talking, what was it? You said you saw, did you say it here when you said you saw a show several times? Not Dear Evan Hansen.
No, I saw Hairspray when I came over to Broadway, but there's a few shows I've seen many times.
Oh yeah, I was going to say, yeah, exactly. But I've seen The Producers 3 or 4 times. I saw Wicked. I mean, we laughed about Wicked. Yeah. Those touch points are missing me, but I still have gone 5 times. Yeah. So, but yeah, there's a lot of them. And like, then you pick up new things, and it's a lot. Again, it's the word of mouth, right? Like you go, my God, if The Producers with Nathan Lane and Matthew Broderick was playing now, I would rush to go see it. It's like, that's how much it meant to me, like, and how powerful it was. But these things are so important because you want to give people things to hang on to, ways to connect. You don't want it to be a transaction. You want it to be a relationship. And, what I really like about the example you gave is that it just really embraces the idea that everything you do is marketing, right? Yeah. It's as simple as the e-tickets are pretty. So like if you print the thing out, at least you have like a nice little like something, a reminder, because I think that's like one of the challenges of digital tickets versus hard tickets is that people miss that souvenir. And if you just look at it as a transaction, you're like going, oh, well, the e-ticket's awesome because I get better data and I get all of these things. But what does the customer get? The customer gets a little like pass on their iPhone that it expires as soon as the show's over, and they don't have a souvenir. But I don't have them here now because I tried to clean up my desk, but I used to have a stack of like all these like events that I really like loved, right? It's like almost every Pearl Jam concert I've ever been to, and like a bunch of like soccer matches and stuff, but ridiculous stuff. So, but it's like an awesome example. Yeah. And I really stepped on your feet there. You were explaining stuff, so I'm sorry about that.
No. It's so nice. Well, you know what? It's lovely because sometimes you say these things and you're like, gosh, am I just making this up? Like, I think that's one of the things that I will say is that I don't have the answers to any of these, really. I'm still learning and I'm still listening, and I think that's the thing is if we say we know the answers to this, then we're probably all fools. And actually, it's so nice to hear someone go, that makes sense, and you're doing it because you sometimes don't know, and you sometimes don't know until. I remember when we opened our doors for the first ever time, and I'd been working on it for 9 months by that point, and we'd been on sale for 6, and like I suddenly went, it's mad to think that this thing that we built, that I started building 9 months ago with this team, and like that has actually meant that people have turned up. Like, it wasn't a dream. Like, these are real people. They're not just these little dots of like confirmed bookings on a ticketing system. They're actual real human beings. Like, what? And like literally you just have to go, right, so what worked, what didn't work, right, tick, move on. Like, keep testing and keep trying and keep going. And I think that is the main thing. And working, fortunately I get to work with the wider team, and the programming that we have is very different. And 1 minute we'll have an immersive Shakespeare, next minute we'll have lovely Laura Linney on stage doing a monologue from an adaptation of a book. Like, there's such a beautiful change and like difference in what we do, which again helps to generate that different energy. Like, some people will just come time and time again because they go, yeah, we like building, and someone will go, well, no, I love that actor, so I'll come and see that, or I love that writer, or I really want to see something that's immersive, so I'm going to come and see that thing and feel like an event. So it's so hard, isn't it? Because you can't tell someone to be like, oh, get a new audience by reprogramming everything you do. No. But like,
but you nailed it though, because you totally nailed it. You may not even realize that you nailed it. You go, I don't know anything, right? And I say that like that because I want that point to cut through. But it's not like, if you ask me, and you know this because we've talked about this. I'll never tell you I have the answer. I go, I know how to find the answers, right? And the answer is always with the customer, right? It's always with like going and talking to people, right? It's always doing the research. It's always like getting a feel for what people want and need. And like we were talking about even before, what people want today is going to be different than what they want in 3 or 6 months. So some of these decisions, we're making, we are guessing, we're using our best guess. Like, nobody has the answers, and then knowing we don't know any of the answers, that we're kind of like in a relationship and a partnership with our audience, and that we're both taking a leap of faith, and that we're always experimenting and changing and tweaking and dealing with people. And which is probably scary because we live in an environment that, even before the pandemic, that wanted two things: one, certainty, and always felt the need to always have the answer, and
also speed is like, and to have the answer now. Like, we're so instant. It's like, right, do that now, quicker, faster. Yeah. Everything is instant. It's like,
that's exactly right. Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, and I think we would agree. And again, you can tell me if I'm wrong, because you can tell me I'm a moron no matter what. Right? Like, it's totally fine. Is that we know that those three things are wrong. Like, they're speed isn't necessarily giving you the best answer. Having the first answer is not the best answer, and thinking you know everything is always the wrong answer. And I think we would definitely agree on that. I mean, I believe. Yeah. I mean, I'm the only one, like, you know, because we made as we kind of wrap up here, since we made fun of Richard and Jonathan at the start, since I'm the one that the BB, and we were talking about Nicholas being on BBC this morning. Yeah. Since I'm the only one here that's gotten called the king of tickets by the BBC, so that's like all I know. I mean, you know, that's my thing, is that, like, when I don't really know anything. I'm a knucklehead, and but I'm curious about people, and, you know, and that's the same thing with you. And, you know, that's what's really always interesting about talking to you, is that, like, I go out, you know, work with people all over the place. And, you know, so then I bring these ideas back, and a lot of times people go, well, that doesn't work. And, like, oh, maybe that works with you. But then it's like, I come and talk to you, and you go, like, we didn't set this up at all, but you were doing exactly the same things that that I'm sitting there preaching to people. It's like, well, you got to know your customers, right? You got to be kind of curious enough to experiment. You got to realize that, like, things are going to change, right? All these things. And you know, you don't need to have the right answer all the time, because it's just not, it's impossible. I think is where it really is.
But it's so hard to take a risk right now. Like, we need to, but when there is so little money in this industry, you know, even with some of the stuff that, you know, we were fortunate the government did give us some money, and, you know, some of us had the loan, some of us had various things that we have sort of get through. But actually, when at the bottom line you are looking at cash, and you're looking at going, right, I need a business to be successful, it is harder. And I think that is the other side of it, is that we can be like, just take more risks, and you need to, like, do all of this stuff. But it's like, but also sometimes, you know, when you've got investors, when you've got a board, when you've got these people that you've got to answer to, sometimes it's hard to be like, oh, actually, do you know what, we're going to do this crazy thing because we need to, or, like, you know, it's that's the other difficult side right now. It's that you want to tell someone to take a risk, but actually we all want comfort right now, which, again, it comes back around, doesn't it, to what we were saying about musicals and wanting to see, you know, it's that's what, you know, do we want to go, you know, you're not going to risk going out and getting ill. You're not going to risk doing something crazy with your marketing or your programming or whatever, because actually you still need to be open in a year, 2 year, 3 year, 5 years time.
Well, let me ask you this, because this is something that people all the time, they ask me about, and they'll say, oh, you know, well, it's easy for you to say something about risk, or it's easy for you to do something about risk. And it sounds to me like you probably have a very similar philosophy on this than I do. It's not about being so, like, willing to take risks. It's about understanding what my tolerance for risk is, and eliminating some of the just, like, stupid mistakes that could make this something risky, not risk, because just getting out of bed in the morning is risky at this point. It's taking prudent risk, right? And saying, like, going, you know, doing things the way I've always done, that's a risky decision. Yeah. Because, you know, and so it's managing the risk versus the reward, and being able to, on a scale, on a continuum, right? From, like, let's say, like, NPS, right? Like, NPS goes, like, 'cause you do the surveys, right? So I'm sure you probably have an NPS score, right? And you go, like, you know, it goes from -100 to 100, you know, noticing, like, so that, like, it's not, if it's too far over to the negative side, that's probably not a good idea. And then putting the odds in your favor, so it goes to the positive. Are you going to get 100? Probably not. But the thing is like, if you get somewhere in the 20, 30, 40, depending on what it is you're doing, it could be great, right? And it's just understanding what the risk is, that every decision, even doing nothing, is risky, and just taking a responsible risk, right? Because that's all success is taking responsible risks.
Yeah. And, you know, one of the positive risks that I think has been fascinating for me, and again, I think it taught me a lot, was with e-ticketing. Like, everyone went, oh yeah, no one will want to do e-ticketing. Like, there'll be people that need their tickets. And it's amazing, because we've had to do e-ticketing for COVID, because we were like, we don't want queues at our box office, so we're not doing Kobos. We're not going to send tickets out. We're going to, because actually then we can control our tickets. We know they're being sent. We know that. And do you know what? I think we've rarely had a single person complain or not understand how to use them or been funny about them. Like, they've actually been charming, and we probably could have all have taken this risk and jumped a lot sooner, but actually madness to take COVID to make us do it, because we kind of had to, for contactlessness, but saving queues and etc. But I like, everyone seems to have just gone, yeah, why was this ever an issue? Why did we make a big deal out of this? And I think it's remembering that when you do stuff, to go, actually, we can overthink things. You can overplan. You can overthink. You can over scenario it, and sometimes you do just need to go, let's do it.
Yeah, no, that I think that's exactly right. Now, I want to be conscious of your time. So how can people find you on the internet?
Oh,
because you have to get it. Like, you're at the end of your day. Me, I'm just getting started. So.
How can they find me? So I have a really hilarious.
You might want to be like, oh, no, don't find me, please.
You can. I have a very hilarious Twitter handle, which there is a story behind, and I blame a guy called Ian Taylor. If anyone knows who Ian Taylor is.
Oh, yeah.
There
you go. Here's another hat tip to the former podcast guest.
Yeah. So when I was in the box office and ticketing team at AKA, when Richard Howle and Ian Taylor hiring me, it was a department of I was about to say boys, I should say men, I was
again another all-time favorite is Ian Taylor. We could have, if I'd known that he was responsible for the Twitter handle, I could have said Richard or Ian, and that would have totally worked as well. And it would have been just as awesome. It would have been just as great.
And because my name's Pauline, he called me Lady P because I was the only lady. So I was always Lady P when I was. So there are certain people in this industry that only call me Lady P, and from those days. And so my Twitter handle is little LIL _ Miss MS _ Lady _ P. Sorry, it's a mouthful and it's ridiculous. But I'm also on LinkedIn under Pauline Fallowell, and you're more than welcome to contact me via there, which is slightly more professional than my little Miss Lady P.
Let's be honest. Like, I mean, how serious are any of us? Is like
I know. I remember someone at one point being like, "Should you change that?" And I was like, "Do you know what? I'm not going through this life being someone I'm not. I'm going to be me, because I think that's the way it should be, right?"
I agree. I think it's completely. I wish I had known the Ian thing, because then I would have totally done that. That would have been awesome. But it's like one of the nice things about doing this thing, the podcast, is that, like, people get to hear that I'm like not that serious, like about most stuff. Because like a lot of times you can think that I'm very serious, because I mean, when you do like certain stuff that I do, it's like it can seem very serious, but it is. It's too short to like be too serious about yourself.
It's getting the yin and the yang, isn't it? Like, you need a balance in whatever you do. And also I think this industry, that is why I'm still here, is because the people are great. And I don't know what else I'd be doing.
Yes, that's exactly right. Well, I mean, there's probably tons of stuff you could do, because you're also a fantastic marketer, and you do a fantastic job, and I want to thank you so much for doing this today.
Oh, no, thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, you're saying that now because we're still recording.
I know. Quick. I'll get my Gemini 2 face thing will come out in a minute.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Come on, isn't that a great conversation? Let me know by sending me an email. It is my name, Dave, at davewakeman.com. Check out my website. If you haven't checked it out in a while, it has been rebuilt during the pandemic, davewakeman.com. It is amazing. The young lady that did my website redevelopment, she is awesome. So check that out. Make sure you check out my friends at Booking Protect, the global leaders in refund protection. As I told you at the very start, the refund protection rates have doubled since tickets started going back on sale after lockdowns. This is a clear indicator of change in behavior. You need to understand what that means for your organization. So talk to Haley, to Kat, to Kath, to Simon. Talk to anybody at Booking Protect. They're all amazing. They will share with you data. They will tell you case studies. They will give you a way that you can offer refund protection to your customers. And most importantly, it's super value to the customers, but it also creates a new revenue stream for you. So check it out, www.bookingprotect.com. Finally, get my newsletter on tickets in the world of live entertainment. It's Talking Tickets. You get it at talkingtickets.substack.com. It comes out each Friday. Tomorrow's episode, edition, number 109, will lay out a new format, which I think is hopefully going to work a lot better. It's going to give you a little bit more utility. It'll be great. So check it out, talkingtickets.substack.com. Again, thank you so much for being here. A lot of new episodes, a lot of great guests coming on. Branch out all over the world. I'm looking for some people from the continent of Africa. Look for some new people from South America. We're getting back to being global here, and hopefully we're gonna help people recover, because there will be a new ebook coming out sometime around the beginning of the year that's going to focus just on recovery. This is all great stuff, but thank you so much for being here, for listening, supporting me, supporting the podcast. If you like the podcast, like it, share it, review it on iTunes. And if you need somebody to talk to, the pandemic ain't over yet. You know where to find me, daviddavewakeman.com. I will see you again soon. Take it easy.